Welcome back to Route Double. I believe we're finally in the present and approaching the end. We had a lot going on last few times. And this is where we left off? I just want to make sure. Okay, yes it is. We're just coming off of a one final Yuri flashback. And a yellow choice that felt very much like a Yuri epilogue almost. For that very reason, there was something that he needed to do. I just sort of had a moment there where I loaded my save and had like a Gandalf in the Mines of Moria. I have no memory of this place. Something I need to do. There's only one way I could atone for letting Yuri die here. By protecting the other girl who was always with me. Mashiro. He swore to protect her. His memories bestowed him with a sense of duty. With renewed gratitude towards Yuri, Natsuhiko once again made a solemn oath. Mashiro silently grasped Natsuhiko's hand. He grasped back. Yeah, we had a loaded few moments here in Labo. Went to the same office. Which we flashed back, rewound time the first time. To, Yuri telling us that we know that we would find a card in here. We recapped our entire journey up to this point in Labo. And then once we got back here to the present day, we had to reveal that the Yuri we've been seeing all along is an hallucination. And then, a bit later, to confirm that, to the point where I very openly complained that they just completely debunked the Yuri illusion theory by Mashiro talking to her, then they went ahead and directly explained in very thorough detail how long Mashiro has been willfully playing along with that, with the fake Yuri, and how agonizing it has been for her to do that all this time, how she literally trained herself to learn empathy so that she could play along with Natsuhiko. My god. It was all worth it. Just for how monumental that reveal was. All of what I found suffering early on in this route, the normal days which dragged on endlessly, that was all worth it to get to these past two videos, these past reveals.
Iko, Mashiro.
Let's fucking go. Two of them exchanged those words and left Area 5. To part with the past and head towards the future. Oh fuck. This is the end. Well, aren't I gonna look a silly kid now stopping last video 3 minutes before the credits? That's okay, because we know that because after there's anything to go by, then we are absolutely going to have a sizable epilogue. Play with it and play. Well, I pretty much gave my synopsis before I realized we were getting the credits. It was all worth it to get to this point. What does that say for the Yuri that we know existed before, in the aftermath? She very much phased out of existence. Here we go. Natsuhiko looked at Mashiro with wide eyes. There was blood on her right shoulder. We got a problem. A red stain grew on Mashiro's clothes before their very eyes. Mashiro was shot. By who? From where? Right as Natsuhiko started to yell, he heard a low voice from behind him. There he is! Turned around, and there by the open gate was a man with a gun. Man was wearing a rescue squad outfit. Hello, Watase. Man whose mission was supposedly to save lives was now giving Natsuhiko a look that could kill. Man's voice sounded familiar. It was a voice they heard last night at the ruined factory. He's that terrorist. Did he chase after us? As soon as Natsuhiko made the connection, the man fired another shot. A sharp sound whizzed through the air right beside Natsuhiko's ear. He's trying to kill us. If we stay here, Mashiro's gonna... Natsuhiko fled for the man, Mashiro in his arms. Mashiro cried out in pain due to her wound. As he tried to voice his encouragement, Natsuhiko thought to himself. Sally said she was shot too. Was he the one that shot her? Sally said she knocked out the two terrorists. They saw 3 terrorists in the ruined factory. This man was the last one. Just then another gunshot rang out from behind them. If they didn't escape, they'd be killed. Natsuhiko frantically turned the corner. There's a security gate on the other side. Mashiro was still in his arms. He swiped the card through the slot. He'd slowly opened. He heard footsteps coming from behind. Hurry up, open, damn it! Natsuhiko pleaded. Oh shit! He was suddenly interrupted by an intense pain. He could feel warm blood oozing out from his side. The bullet had apparently gouged out just a tiny bit of his flesh. At least that's what he told himself as he dashed to the other side of the gate. As they got to the other side, Natsuhiko pressed the open close button on the security gate panel to shut the gate. But it probably won't buy them in much more than a few seconds. Probably has a security card too. Natsuhiko rushed for the emergency staircase with Mashiro in his arms. The staircase was already destroyed. Natsuhiko called the map to mind and searched for escape routes. Currently at floor B2 of Area 6's inner ring. 9 years ago we escaped through the cargo lift. It was probably in the outer ring. His thoughts had gotten that far, he heard sounds from outside the stairwell. It was the sound of the man opening the closed gate. Crap, he's gonna corner us. Left the stairwell, the enemy would surely shoot them. It was impossible for them to climb up to the surface with the staircase collapsed. Mashiro grabbed Natsuhiko's arm. Her hand was trembling. Footsteps approached. There was no time. We only had a moment of an opening to get to the outer ring. Is there anything we can do? Anything to divert his attention? Natsuhiko thought for a second before an idea struck him. Focused hard and searched for the approaching man's characteristic brain waveform. Man was Type 5, a lone wolf detached from reality. Take this. Natsuhiko focused with all his might, sending forth intense telepathy. He heard the man scream from outside the stairwell. Natsuhiko impelled Mashiro and ran out from the stairwell. The man was standing still with his hands against his ears, just outside in the connecting passageway. It's the most intense telepathy yet. Can your brain withstand such a loud sound? Natsuhiko concentrated further and fired off even more telepathy. power necessary for a range of over 2 kilometers, all at point-blank range. The man fell to his knees in pain. It worked, or at least he thought. The man shot his gun without getting up. Natsuhiko shielded Mashiro in his arms. Luckily, the bullet did not hit them. The man kept shooting recklessly. Oh god. Shit! Natsuhiko ran without rest. Damn it, telepathy isn't gonna cut it. Even if it causes him to falter, it won't take him down. That thought in mind, Natsuhiko rushed into the connecting passageway to the outer ring. A gunshot rang out from behind them. Mashiro breathed painfully. Her eyes looked vacant, as if she were running a fever. Uh-oh.
Mashiro, 大丈夫か?
Her answer was weak and ambiguous. Perhaps the sudden loss of blood was putting her into shock. If you don't escape quickly, Mashiro's gonna... Escape alone was not enough. The terrorists' goal was to destroy the city. They were probably going to cause a meltdown right after this. Even if they got Mashiro out of here, even if Salyu had already escaped. If the atomic dust scattered everywhere, then everyone would die before they could escape to a sufficient distance. In that case, what I need to do for the girls is... Intense determination filled Natsuhiko's heart, and he slipped through the connecting passageway and approached Area 6's outer ring. Oh! The outer ring was like a spacious factory. A factory engulfed in flames. Natsuhiko recalled the sights of 9 years ago. Back then his mother took him there, here to escape. If I remember correctly, there's a cargo lift in the furthest part inside. Natsuhiko weaved his way through the flames, carrying Mashiro in his arms. Blazing fires relentlessly assaulted them, scorching at their skin and clothes. Natsuhiko withstood the heat and pain as he pushed forward towards the emergency escape he knew to be there. He opened the security gate at the corner of the factory. Beyond the gate was a small room that was not at all different from how he remembered. The control panel next to the lift had buttons to control the door. When he pressed the open button, they heard the sound of the lift slowly descending. Then the door opened. Okay, it's working! Apparently the lift was set to automatically go down when the door opened, automatically go up when the door closed. Natsuhiko looked inside to find that you could not control the lift's movement from inside. Uh-oh. Is it because people aren't normally meant to ride this thing? Is that why we never found Mashiro? In after? Natsuhiko confirmed the setup and laid Mashiro on the floor. He took off her blazer and tore up his own shirt. He tightly wrapped the torn cloth over her shoulder.
痛むか? ごめんな。今傷の手当てをしてるんだ。手当？これ以上出血したらまずいだろうからさ。
Natsuhiko finished tending to the wound and put her blazer back on.
ほら、終わったぞ。
Mashiro's consciousness seemed to be wearing thin. Nevertheless, she seemed to notice something strange in either his voice or his expression. Her vacant eyes glimmered with the light of doubt.
でも、どうして今なの？一緒に逃げてから外で手当てすれば。
Can't do that, Mashiro. I can't. Natsuhiko swallowed those words.
逃げるまでのわずかな時間の間に傷口が開くかもしれないだろう。だからだよ。大した意味はない。
本当に？
Natsuhiko looked to the lift without answering the question.
いいか、マシロ。このリフトに乗れば地上まで脱出できる。まずはお前が乗って逃げてくれ。
夏彦。
Natsuhiko looked for an answer and he lied.
さっきの男の心を読んで分かった。サリュが僕らを助けようと地下に降りてきて閉じ込められたらしい。
It wasn't true. He only made it up so he could get Mashiro to go out first. Without revealing any of that, Natsuhiko then spoke with sincerity.
僕はサリを助けてから脱出する。だから今は一緒に行けない。お前は先に逃げて母さんに全てを伝えてくれ。
But Mashiro looked at Natsuhiko and whispered sadly.
嘘。今夏彦の心をエンパシーで読めなかった。心閉ざしてるでしょ。
Oops.
おいおい、勝手に他人の心を読むのは自分に禁じてるんじゃなかったっけ？
そんなこと言ってる場合じゃ。本当は何が目的なの、夏彦。どうして地下に？
嘘じゃない。サリを助けるんだ。
It's fair. As Natsuhiko piled on the lies, Mashiro spoke up with a tormented voice.
だったら私も地下に残る。
ダメだ。まだあのテロリストが施設内を徘徊してる。お前を連れて行くわけにはいかないんだ。足手まといになるんだよ。早くしないとあいつが来る。頼むから言ってくれ。いや、いや。
Mashiro shook her head like a child. Tears blotted her eyes.
離れ離れになるなんて嫌だよ。せっかく夏彦と触れ合えたのに。9年も一緒にいて、ようやく本当の言葉で話せるようになったのに。
Mashiro clenched her fist and pounded Natsuhiko's chest. Pounded and pounded as she cried out.
今度は夏彦が嘘をつくの？私と離れるために？あ、無理だよ。そんなの。夏彦が心を閉ざすなら、私にも好きなようにさせてよ。
Mashiro wouldn't listen to what Natsuhiko had to say. I feel like we've had Salyu's epilogue, and we've had Yuri's epilogue. Now is this? It's because of the very fact that their hearts had connected that their intentions did not. And so Natsuhiko. He expressed his feelings to her with actions rather than words.
マシロ。
Aww. Natsuhiko pinned her down and pressed his lips against hers. Body stiffened in resistance. Eventually she relaxed. Felt her soft body and her pounding heart. He knew she could feel his pounding heart as well. For that fleeting kiss, Natsuhiko gently moved back away from Mashiro.
ごめんな、マシロ。いつも勝手なことばかり言って。だけどこれが僕の気持ちだ。僕だってお前と離れ離れになんかなりたくない。だけどお前を守るためには。
夏彦。
Mashiro spoke up in confusion. As he gazed at her, Natsuhiko recalled something he had once heard. It was what his mother had said 9 years ago. This is a cargo lift. It can't go down to the basement from the ground floors, but it should go up the other way, even during incidents. Can't go down to the basement from the ground floors. To protect Mashiro.
こうするしかないんだ。
He muttered that. Pushed Mashiro into the lift. Natsuhiko ignored Mashiro's yelp as he pressed the button on the lift's control panel.
何してるの？
The lift door shut in front of Mashiro as she panicked and stood up.
ちょっと、冗談やめて！開けてよ、夏彦！夏彦！
You could hear her voice from beyond the door. The lift could not be controlled from the inside. Just a matter of time, the lift would automatically take Mashiro up to the ground level. Natsuhiko placed a finger to his temple and sent her telepathy.
マシロ、今まで本当にありがとう。僕もお前と一緒にいられてよかった。
夏彦。
でも、これは根性の別れじゃない。僕は必ず生きて帰る。だから、お前は。
You could tell Mashiro gasped. After a short moment of silence, her answer arrived.
約束。
Natsuhiko quietly nodded at those words. Soon enough, he heard the sound of the lift ascending. Natsuhiko pondered to himself as he heard that. Gosh, after 10 years, we finally had our journey of justice, haven't we? It's really fun, like old times, but this is as far as we can go together. It would have been simple to escape with Mashiro. Since there were no other emergency escapes, the man would probably come here eventually. The bullet wound in Natsuhiko's side throbbed in pain. It's not enough to run away. Don't prevent the meltdown. Don't stop them. The city would be destroyed. Atomic dust would rain on Mashiro, Salyu, his mother, Anna, and Jun, and everyone else. I can't let that happen. Natsuhiko stared intensely at the control panel. It smashed it with all his strength. Oh shit. Cut his fist, but he kept hitting it until with a crunch it was completely destroyed. Oh shit. To prevent it from being repaired, Natsuhiko tore out the wiring connecting it to the wall and stuffed it in his pocket.
Yosh.
That explains that. I thought it couldn't go back to the ground floor. I thought it couldn't go back to the basement, so using it once... that's it. In theory, it should already be dead. This should be unnecessary. Now the terrorists couldn't chase Mashiro. Cut off the only emergency escape, meaning nobody else could get out of the basement. I won't escape. What I need to do now is not to escape. To fight. To defeat that man and prevent the terrorist attack. Protect everyone's future. Just Natsuhiko made that resolution. Felt a presence behind him. Hey, Watase! He looked back to see the man standing by the entrance of the small room. The man glared at Natsuhiko with his gun at his waist. Natsuhiko immediately focused and sent a full force wave of telepathy with all his willpower. The man didn't falter one bit. Earplugs? Oh no. I tried one more time, but the man showed no hint of any change. It's not working, as he was standing it.
テレパシーかさっきは驚いたがもう機会よ
Oh, and with that, the man leapt at Natsuhiko. The man grabbed him by the neck and pulled him in with frightening strength. His fierce glare pierced Natsuhiko like a sword.
娘はどうした
知るか
But when he answered that... Ow! The man's fist sank into Natsuhiko's gut. It felt as if his stomach had ruptured. He couldn't breathe. The man quietly scanned the room and took notice of the broken control panel.
小賢しいこと
This wasn't the terror. The man clicked his tongue and beat Natsuhiko in the face. Damn! Lights flashed before Natsuhiko's eyes and for a moment his consciousness threatened to cut out. He heard the man's voice through the ringing in his ears.
本当にお前らコミュニケーターは神経を逆なでする
There is something else that happened in this room that I have a feeling we're about to find out.
怪物どものくせにお友達は大事だってかお前らにもそんなまともな心があるとは知らなかったな
The man's voice was full of pitch black hate, and his words played back in Natsuhiko's ear. What supports Q's belief is a hatred of the unknown. Mere thought that they are not like us is enough to incite them to hate others, ostracize them, and injure them. Their mentality is abnormal. Felt like he'd caught a glimpse of that mentality now. Natsuhiko stood up to fight against that hatred.
当たり前だ何がそんなに憎いか知らないけどなコミュニケーターだって人間なんだだけど僕らは理由もなく一般人を憎んだりしない街に火を放ったり爆弾を仕掛けたり人を撃ったりは絶対しないお前らとは違うんだよテロリスト
Ooh. Natsuhiko could hear the man gasp. Eventually the man smiled and his voice echoed.
だよな 人間ならそうだよな。でもよくそんなセリフが吐けるな。100人以上も殺しておいて。
What? Natsuhiko's eyes widened at those words. The man tightened his grip around Natsuhiko's neck and continued.
なあおいコミュニケーター、お前が知らなくて俺にはお前らを憎む理由があるんだ。お前に大事なお友達がいるように俺には誰より大切な奴がいたんだよ。
何の話をしてる。
わからないか。わからないよな。118人の中のたった一人に過ぎないからな。だけどそいつは俺の半身だった。鏡に映したもう一人の俺だった。弱っちいけど一生懸命で、バカだけど優しくて、俺にとっちゃ光そのものだったんだ。でもあいつは死んじまった。残ったのは薄暗い影だけ。それが俺だ。笠崎渡瀬だ。この名を耳に焼き付けろ。脳に刻み込め。お前が死ぬその瞬間まで何度でも思い返せ。
Watase Kasasagi? It's a name he had never heard before. Natsuhiko had no idea what the man was talking about. The man didn't sweat the details as he slipped the gun out from his waist. That moment, Natsuhiko froze. He's gonna shoot. All doubt flew away from his mind. In its place, he recalled a conversation he once had with Salyu.
今日警備員を投げ飛ばしただろ。あれ僕にもできないかな。
武術は少しかじったくらいでは役には立たないけど、素人にも使える技はある。例えば襟首をつかまれたら。
Someone tries to grab you by the neck. Oh, hello. Time to practice Salyu style. As soon as he remembered, Natsuhiko's body moved on its own. Grabbed the man's wrist back. Nimbly wrapped around behind him. The man braced his legs. With a vigorous yell. Oh shit! Natsuhiko threw the man down. The man's body struck the floor. That was the Shihonage, the only technique Salyu taught him. As he fell, something dropped from the man's pocket. A card with level N written on it. Security card, if I just break it. Natsuhiko picked up the card and snapped it in two. At the same time, the man got up. He was still holding the gun in his hand. Is he going to shoot? No! I keep running away, I can trap him. Natsuhiko turned back and tried to dash out of the room. Then a gunshot rang out. Uh-oh. Natsuhiko's left arm popped. He shouted against his will. He was struck by intense pain as if he had been hit by a blunt force weapon in the upper arm and his brain were burning. Natsuhiko withstood the intense pain and tumbled out of the room. He ran into the fire, applying pressure to his arm. He took out the split card and threw it into the blazing flames. A shout shot up from behind him. Natsuhiko looked back to see the man standing behind the flames. The man took out another card from his pocket to replace the one Natsuhiko destroyed. Natsuhiko shook off that voice and ran. And thus began his desperate fight for his life in the underground facility without an exit. He ran recklessly through the factory towards another area. That area was also wrapped in flames, the heat waves tormenting Natsuhiko. As he ran, his breathing grew rough. Blood oozed out of his arm and side. His body was gradually losing strength. Damn it, what do? How do I defeat him? telepathy attacks weren't working on him. His heart obviously wasn't open, so Natsuhiko couldn't use empathy. The throwing techniques weren't enough to do any real damage. No matter how much Natsuhiko kept running, it would be overtaken and shot to death. If I at least had some sort of weapon. He looked around and soon realized he could use the fire surrounding him as a weapon. Natsuhiko kicked the burning wall with all his strength. The wallboard tore off and fell to the floor. He held the board to the fire, setting it aflame as a sort of makeshift torch. What? It's do or die, huh? He could just hit him in the face with this. If it worked out, he could blind the man. With that thought in mind, Natsuhiko hid himself under cover. Eventually heard the area gate open. Heavy footsteps approached. Wait for it. Don't go until the last second. Natsuhiko lowered his breath, concealed himself completely, and waited for the right timing. He jumped out of cover and hurled the burning board at the man's face. The man shrank back for a second. The board flew towards his face. Right before impact, he swatted it out of the air with his arm. Oh shit.
なんだこれ。まさかこんなもので俺を倒せると思ったのか。
The man spoke in disappointment as he casually shot his gun. The third bullet gouged itself into Natsuhiko's body, this time in the right leg. Oh shit. He's just fucking toying with us at this point. He leaned against the wall. He put up with the pain and forced his legs to run away. Is he going to shoot me in the back? Thought so, but the man did not. Instead of a gunshot, he heard a scoffing voice.
簡単に殺してもらえると思うなよ。さあ、逃げろ逃げろ、コミュニケーター。俺たちも逃げたんだ。あの夜の病院でな。
In the hospital that night. The man kept speaking unintelligibly as he made his leisurely pursuit. Natsuko's voice overflowed with bitterness. Natsuhiko cursed over and over as he ran for his life, searching for a way to defeat the man and survive, searching for a glimmer of hope in the midst of despair. Blood poured endlessly. From his side, his left arm, his right leg. His sight went dark, his body cold. He knew he was losing too much blood. No matter how bloody he got, no matter how much he ran, he could not find a single weapon to defeat the man. At the end of his aimless run, Natsuhiko arrived at a bizarre place. A spacious hall of some sort. Giant cylindrical machines were lined up. Their whirring noises indicated they were operational. What is this place? Natsuhiko did not remember how he had gotten here. His consciousness kept threatening to cut out. No, who cares about that? Is there anything I can use as a weapon? Natsuko's hazy thoughts were drowned out by a gunshot. Another bullet pierced into his left arm. Natsuhiko collapsed to the ground. His brachial artery seemed to have ruptured as a fountain of blood gushed out. I can't. The wound was likely fatal. As Natsuhiko sank into a puddle of blood, the man's voice rained down upon him.
ここがお前の死に場所か?
The man had apparently followed him all the way here. Natsuhiko hadn't even realized it.
お前らにはちょうどいい墓だな。
The man trampled Natsuhiko's hand, smashing the security guard in his grip. Pain ran through his trampled hand, but he could no longer even scream. As Natsuhiko slowly looked up, the man questioned him.
気分はどうだ? 痛いか? いずれにせよあいつが貴様らから受けた痛みはこの程度では済まないけどな。その1万分の1でも味わいながら苦しみつつそこで死ぬ。
Natsuhiko could say nothing. All he could do was question what he had just heard. What is he talking about? Who is this light of his life? Before he could find the answer to that question, his vision went dark. The man turned back and said,
お前の次はあの娘だ。じゃあな、コミュニケーター。
Natsuhiko gasped to hear those words. The way he's going to chase Mashiro. Kill her. Instant, Natsuhiko's consciousness came rushing back. Desire to protect Mashiro roused him. His body had already lost a large volume of blood. Probably didn't have much longer. He had no weapons. Telepathy was useless. Even so, think of a way to stop him. Instant, Natsuhiko's thoughts ran wild. A situation devoid of all hope. Inside that endless darkness. He found a single ray of hope. My ability. Power to connect minds rather than just brains. Okay, maybe we are onto something. Can I use that to defeat him? He had connected with Mashiro's heart. He saw her memories as if they were his own. Each memory seemed delicate, fragile, easy to break. Obviously that wasn't reality. Just a visualization of the brain activity inside Mashiro's head, wasn't it? He had no idea what that underlying principles that behind this third ability were. It felt like diving into people's memories. It was an aberrant BC ability that allowed direct interference with the brain's function. If that's the case, then depending on how I go about it, perhaps I could use it to deal direct damage to his brain. It's hardly a glimmer of hope, but rather nothing more than wishful thinking. As he thought about it, Natsuhiko remembered something. In particular, remembered the last of Rokumi City's 7 wonders. One he could not remember what they were when they were telling them to sell you. The reverse of wonder number 5, which was if a communicator uses BC without knowing the proper way, their mind will eventually break. Rokumi City's 7 wonders, number 7. Communicator excessively misuses BC, their target's mind will eventually break. Is that what it meant? Can powerful BC really break the target's mind? As soon as he got that idea, Natsuhiko's entire body regained its strength. Natsuhiko stood up and rushed at the man. The man turned around and readied his gun. Just a second sooner, Natsuhiko grabbed the man by the wrist. And we get the scene. There it is. We've arrived at the scene. The man's face stiffened as Natsuhiko desperately grasped the man's wrist. He took a deep breath and focused with all his mind and soul. With the same as when he entered Mashiro's mind. Natsuhiko focused on its intent to expose the man's mind, not to know it, but to destroy it. At that moment, Natsuhiko's vision tumbled into darkness. Alright, the same as how it was with Mashiro. Now to destroy his mind, and Natsuhiko's soul terrified him. What? What the hell is this? The inside of the man's mind was completely different from Mashiro's. Wow. Man's distorted thoughts were swirling with tremendous hatred and killing intent. Visions of the memories floating about were likewise warped, ruined, and teeming with malice. Man's mind was devoted to hatred towards communicators. Resentment, indignation, lament, murderous rage, all sorts of negative emotions. Natsuhiko even felt the man's unadulterated emotions that could be neither verbalized nor visualized. Why is it all like this? Oh, more importantly, I need to destroy these memories. Natsuhiko glared at the fragments of the man's memories. Shatter. Wished for their destruction. Visions burst and faded into the darkness. Mind Crush! The man screamed. Natsuhiko snapped back to his senses. The man dropped his gun and gazed at Natsuhiko in dumbfounded terror.
今のはまさかお前も頭の中を
The man babbled ambiguously as he stared fearfully at Natsuhiko. However, Natsuhiko was already at the end of his rope. Can't go on. Can't keep focusing. He laid at the man and tried to use BC, but he couldn't use his abilities. If he got shot by the man again, it would certainly be the end of his life. However, the man turned around and ran like mad.
待て
Natsuhiko tried to chase after him, but collapsed. The man's back faded into the distance. His mind is abnormal. Why would he hate communicators so much? Natsuhiko couldn't believe it. What would drive someone to hate others so much? Someone like that is dangerous. Someone like that can't be allowed to exist. Natsuhiko could no longer move such a finger. Damn. Can't move anymore. Am I going to die? Here? Natsuhiko's consciousness faded. A feeling of death loomed over him. At that moment, Mashiro came to mind. No. Can't die here. Now. If I leave that terrorist alive, he'll kill Mashiro. Very least, I need to stop that man. The moment that thought crossed his mind, the final flame of life ignited within Natsuhiko. He wasn't dead just yet. He still had his sight, his hearing, his touch, his smell, his taste, and his pain sensitivity. As long as he was alive, he'd keep going until that final flame died out. You. Natsuhiko forced his body up. His hazy eyes caught sight of the man trying to leave the room.
逃がすか
As he stilled his fading consciousness, Natsuhiko focused with all his mind. Show me all the memories that compose his mind. When that thought crossed his mind, countless visions twinkled in the darkness. It's all I can do now. Please, work.
壊れてくれ
Natsuhiko used the last of his BC to destroy that man's mind. Destroy his enemy's inexhaustible malice. He crammed in malice of his own that surpassed it. That moment. The man's scream echoed from somewhere. Split second, the man's body collapsed. Natsuhiko could no longer see, only hear. But he was convinced that he had destroyed the man's mind. To hear the sound of the gate closing, Natsuhiko's lips curled up in a faint smile. He did it. Can't attack Mashiro anymore. That conviction in his mind. All strength left his body. His body grew cold, his sight grew dark. It was as if all his senses diluted, as if he became a mere spirit floating in the air. It felt like a ripple in the water. Death was near. But he was fine with that. As long as he was able to protect her. Natsuhiko's mind filled with warmth. After that, suddenly, nothingness swooped down upon him. His fading consciousness, Natsuhiko thought that he had finally accomplished something at the end of his 16 years of life. Goodness. Saved Mashiro. He was able to repay his debt of 9 years. He erased the malice. Prided himself in that feat as he prayed. So please, hope this never happens again. Or tragedies. That desire eventually disappeared as well. Mashiro. The end. His vague thoughts. Thought faintly about the girl was precious to him. Then Natsuhiko's consciousness sank into the darkness. Oh, that time. Somewhere in the basement floors of Labo. There was a girl desperately trying to pull her consciousness together as well. Zalio!
血を流しすぎた。
In her hand, she grasped a single ampule of medication. She stuck it into her arm with wavering hands. 80. Somewhere else. Two female rescue squad members spoke with heavy expressions on their faces.
司令長との無線がまた途切れました。隊長たちとの連絡は依然普通のままです。
The woman gritted her teeth as she glared at the radio.
隊長。
As she worried about her squad mates, the other girl furrowed her eyebrows. On the lower floor, the woman nearly crawled on the ground to escape the encroaching fire and smoke.
くそ。こんなところで死んでたまるもんですか。
She gave voice to her conviction and ran for her life. Finally, somewhere far away from there, darkness of a section everyone had forgotten, lay a lone girl. She slowly got up. Why are you there? It was the girl who had been inside the boy's mind. The girl who had died here 9 years ago. She looked around and murmured in an empty voice.
ヒコリン。
However, her words fell on no ears, dissolved into the darkness instead. Well, I'll be damned. Hot diggity. Continuation. Area N, 3:15 p.m.
男は無数の謎に翻弄され、信じていたものにさえ疑われ、ついに力尽きた。だがそんな彼を影から見続けてきた少年がいた。彼は知っている。男が聞き続けてきた幻聴の正体を。少年が男の凶弾に倒れ、そして再び起き上がるまでにあの場所で何が起きたのか。
After the man shot the boy down and before he stood up again.
もう一つのサバイバル。少年が傍観することをやめ、自ら立ち上がると決めたとき、物語は終局に向けて動き出す。
9:16. 9:16 a.m.
ビフォークライム、アフターデイズ。ルートカレント。
Converge.
2つのルートが1つに重なり合う。
Next route. Route unlocked. New scenario in the route sec. Alright, answer mode for before. Well, well. We have 3 endings to get for before yet. And we have current. Man who never lost heart has finally exhausted his strength. What was watching in the shadows all along. So this connects the dots, so to speak. It only has 1 ending, though. So that feels like it's going to be more informational. And 10:6:19? 9:16? Interesting. It definitely makes sense why I was strongly encouraged to play after before. And also really makes sense now about the perception of Watase. It's a guy who seems generally good, Like, we couldn't believe that he was actually a terrorist. Then we go into before, see him as a terrorist. But realistically, if we're to accept that what Natsuhiko did was take all his memories filled with malice and crush them, it left him as just a rescue squad captain before whatever this inciting incident was that brought forth all this malice from Watase's heart. Realistically, he is currently a good person. He just also was very much a terrorist leading into this incident, so both are true. He is in theory a good person, but he's also a terrorist. Which is... he is very much a terrorist. I do want to know more about this inciting incident. We only got, like, vague teases of a memory. That's sort of motivation for his rescue work. Obviously something that happened in the course of his work led to him sort of retreating from everyone, including his co-workers, one of whom he was dating, and just becoming a terrorist. A hateful, spiteful terrorist. I say don't get me wrong when I say that he's currently a good person, but also a terrorist. I don't want to excuse anything that he's done in before route. It's more along the lines of he is very much a present-day terrorist, but Natsuhiko, in breaking his mind, almost factory reset him to the time before whatever happened that made him a terrorist. So, in theory, that Watase, without sans memories, is a better person. He also has to live with the reality of him eventually doing really shitty shit. So obviously next video is just going to be a short recap of the 3 endings we missed in here, which are pretty obvious, I think. We'll do our best to get those. And then we'll move on to the current day. The present has arrived. And also, in terms of the flow of the story, after setting up the mystery of everything, then the real theme of before being moving out of the past into the present, which, in its own inner workings of a frame story, is what happened with Natsuhiko. And now, that perfectly leads into the current route, which is doing the same with the overall story, it seems. We ended up at the part that we thought we would. The confrontation in Area N between Watase and Natsuhiko. We finally have the true context of that. And now, here we go. I guess the last question that's really weird is, what is the Yuri of the After Route? Yuri is dead, very clearly, and yet somehow, in Natsuhiko's mind crush on Watase, Yuri has somehow respawned. It briefly mentioned, like, implanting some malice of his own. Did he implant memories of Yuri into Watase's head, and now Watase hallucinates Yuri? Did he somehow release Yuri from his own mind, so she takes on a physical form again? I don't understand that whatsoever, but we'll probably find out. Because Watase very much has Yuri-related hallucinations, but there's also a real Yuri. So, uncertain. At any rate, that's all for now. Until next time, until then, that was fantastic. That was really fantastic.